All right, viewers and subscribers, this is BVI Channel 1. We are live on our program this evening. We're talking about the amalgamation of Nigeria. What do Igbos want? That's what we're focusing on this evening. And joining me tonight is Nemo. She's going to be our guest tonight. She had been a very honored guest last week, Thursday, and this conversation is extremely very important for our people, and not just Igbo, but all indigenous people in Nigeria to understand where Nigeria is at the moment and where possibly it should be tomorrow. And joining me also are respected men, women from across the world listening and joining us via Zoom. I welcome every one of you one after the other, and we'll continue acknowledging every one of you one after the other. Currently, we have Austin Okeke, we have Chief Amadi Ebube Mbama. We have also Ndubisi and Enugu coming from GGM, and then more our main guest for tonight as we continue in this conversation. Please stay tuned and rightly informed. And then more, it's about time we bring you forward to tonight's program. Good evening. Can you please come up on your camera and your mic? You can unmute yourself if you're muted. I think she's off. She went off, and I'm bringing her right back again. She's joining any moment from now. I think she went off, and I'm bringing her back again. I think she's here right now. Hello, Nemo. Good evening. Hello, unmute yourself.
Good evening.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. We
My
can hear you
network
loud
is
and clear.
tricky. Thank you so much.
Onugunara Kanje, your voice is really resounding. Okay, without wasting more time, can I hit the ground running? Um, Tonight we are talking about
The network
the
is tricky.
yeah. So sorry about that. That is Nigerian factor for you. Now waiting with the see for Niger. That's part of the problem we are facing in this part of the world. But I believe I can hear you, and our audience can also hear you loud and clear. So we just have to hit the ground running. We just have to hit the ground running. We are talking about the amalgamation of Nigeria and what the Igbos want. Can you give us an elaborate meaning of the concept of the amalgamation of Nigeria? Can you please give us that a clearer perspective or meaning of that word, the amalgamation of Nigeria? Are you with me? Hello? Hello? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Hello? Well, she's complaining about her network. Maybe when she comes around, she will join us. Ndubisi is here. We also have other people. Let's continue with the conversation while we wait for our main guest to join us. We're talking about what do Igbos want in Nigeria today, and we're focusing on the amalgamation of Nigeria. What does that actually mean? We have gentlemen here who can also join us in this conversation to air their opinion as to what they think Ndi Igbo wants in Nigeria today. Some may say presidency, some may say Igbo president. That is what Igbos want. Some may say restructure Nigeria. That is what Igbos want. Some may say leave Nigeria as it is, but good governance alone is what Nigeria want. or Igbos want, or Nigerians want in Nigeria today. So it means a different thing. And the concept of the amalgamation of Nigeria is something many people are not conversant with. So, and that's why we want to highlight on that today. I think we're trying to bring her back again. Her network is playing hide and seek with her. Ndubisi, you've heard what I've said so far. No more. I think she's joined us again.
Yes, yes, my network is tricky. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to get a job in MTN.
All right, ma. Okay, so we are talking about what do Igbos want in Nigeria today. Um, we've heard about the concept of the amalgamation. People are asking, Kevin the Igbo, what exactly Igbos want for Nigeria as a day today. Now, to some people, they will say, oh, Igbo presidency, Igbo presidency. To some people, they will say, oh, Igbos want through federation, or what they call um, restructuring of Nigeria. Okay, some others will say, oh, all they want in Nigeria is a new Nigeria that will work for everybody. But the concept of the amalgamation of Nigeria is a new concept to so many people. What does that mean to Ndi Igbo and the rest of other people, indigenous people in Nigeria?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening again.
Good
The
evening.
concept of de-amalgamation is simply turning a new leaf from the corruption, ineptitude that has governed and bedeviled Nigeria since 1960. It is looking at other successful models across the world where de-amalgamation has brought development and prosperity to their peoples, such as Yugoslavia. After the 1945 Second World War, Yugoslavia was under the Iron Curtain in the era of the Cold War, under the strong man Josip Tito, the right-hand man of Nikita Khrushchev of the Soviet era. And after the fall of the Cold War, the end of the Iron Curtain and the fall of the USSR, Yugoslavia began to disintegrate because Yugoslavia, just as Nigeria, was a conglomeration of various ethnic peoples, the Serbs, the Croatians, the Slovaks, the Macedonians, some Turkish minority, the Kosovars, the Albanians, the country that birthed Mother Teresa, and all other people were clubbed together by Joseph Stalin, Joseph Tito under the communist era, and forced to become what they call the Balkans, Yugoslavia. And so after the Second World War, exactly what is happening in Nigeria following the death of Joseph Tito, who was a dictator, the communist dictator, Yugoslavia fell into war. There were very serious strife and war. And it was happening just at the bottom of Europe. So Europe looked at us and said, we cannot be having this kind of war in the 20th century. Something has to happen. It is too close to call because look at Yugoslavia, look at Greece. And they are part of the, Greece is part of the European Union. They said this is just at our doorstep. So Europe and America set about solving the Yugoslav problem. And what did they discover was the Yugoslav problem? All the ethnicities that form Yugoslavia wanted to be like the rest of Europe. Europe is a continent of ethnic nations. The French live in France, the Greeks live in Greece, the Portuguese live in Portugal, the Spaniards live in Spain, the Italians live in Italy, the Germans live in Germany, the Polish live in Poland, the Danish live in Denmark, and so on and so forth. And so they want to be like the rest of Europe. So Yugoslavia was divided into 7 ethnic nationalities, and all of them was accorded sovereign status, and all of them were made members of the United Nations. Problema solucionado. The problems of conflict in Yugoslavia disappeared. The country has now known prosperity and development since the Balkan War came to an end, and America put all of them in the UN. Nigerians now go there to wash plates and clean roads. Prosperity has come to Yugoslavia. And the thing with the Yugoslavia is that not all Yugoslavian countries are big. Croatia is the biggest, Serbia is the biggest, followed by Croatia. Some countries like Northern Macedonia is the same size as Bayelsa State and Osun State. Slovakia is the size of Enugu State. They are small countries. Kosovo is the size of Dugbe Market in Ibadan. And they are all sovereign countries. And they are doing very well with their people. Kosovo for the Kosovars. Croatians live in Croatia. Serbians live in Serbia. Macedonians live in Macedonia. And so what we are saying is that we must come to the reality of Nigeria. All these things about quota system, educationally disadvantaged, you have to wait for this state to go to school before you can score this percentage in JAMB, all that nonsense. We should divide Nigeria into ethnic nations for everybody to grow at their pace. Nigeria is no longer giant. It has been a comatose giant for the last over 10 years. So there's no need pretending giant of Africa. The giant is in coma. And that every country does not have to be big. Taiwan is a very small country. It has the fourth largest GDP in the world. Gambia, all of us know Gambia. Gambia is the size of Asaba. It's the size of Onitsha main market. Gambia, and all of us go there. It's a fine sovereign country. Every country doesn't have to be big. How about Rwanda that just fought a war and is a small country? How about Lesotho? How about Swaziland? They are fine small countries that are doing very well. So why are we deceiving ourselves about giant of Africa, and everybody's crying? So we are calling for de-amalgamation into ethnic nations. If Nigeria de-amalgamates into 50 countries, so be it. Let every country go and manage their development and manage the resources God has given them. The countries in Yugoslavia are very highly developed countries in Europe. They don't have oil and they are doing very well. So what are we talking about? So that is the doctrine of de-amalgamation, splitting Nigeria into indigenous ethnic nationalities so that the ethnic nations can move forward with their prosperity and development.
All right, that's a very wonderful explanation, and it smashes the argument of people where they talk say Nigeria needs to be large, big economy, and the rest of them in order to flourish, and Igbos need a larger Nigeria in order for them to flourish as a people. You know, that narrative have been put out there, but yet Nigerians have continued to go from frying pan to fire, from frying pan to fire. Every successive government gets worse than the previous one, and the same is also applicable in so many African countries today. When I say Nigeria is a British colonial contraption, simply means that Nigeria is a product of colonization by the British, set up for the purpose of colonization. Colonization have long gone. What are we still doing with the failed experiment? That is the idea of returning Nigerian people, the people that were here before the colonial masters came in and created what you now call Nigeria today, to go back to what they were before. And from the narrative coming from Nemo, simply saying that if European countries that have very small country landmass and population could be very strong, viable, and prosperous, why wouldn't they be replicated in Africa, particularly Nigeria? So, Nemo, thank you for that very narrative. Now, going further, narrowing it down to Ndi Igbo as it is in Nigeria today, or any other ethnic nationality in Nigeria today, how do you think they can go about this to achieve it? As for now, it seems to be a proposal, it seems to be a template, it seems to be something that is being looked up to like a blueprint of what it should be. How do you take it up from here? What should the people do? Because as we speak, Nigerians are confused. Igbos are trapped as well as other ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. But it seems that some set of people are enjoying the Nigeria as we have today. So how do you get started to get this thing to become a reality? Talking about the amalgamation of Nigeria. Now, it is no longer talking about restructuring. You're no longer talking about Igbo presidency for the Igbo and the rest of other ethnic groups. What are the practical steps that can be taken in order to, get to the destination we're talking about?
Thank you very much, is that we must realize one thing, that the political class in Nigeria who earn more than $2 million a year each will never permit the amalgamation. They will never permit a change of the status quo. The ruling class, whether they are Fulani or Hausa or Igbo or Yoruba, once they are governor with all their sirens and paraphernalia, they are senators, they have immunity from all kinds of criminality, they will never permit a change, whether it is restructuring or the amalgamation, they will never permit it. Remember, let me refresh your memory. Abacha did constitutional conference, nothing, nothing. Nigeria is still as bad as it is. Obasanjo did national conference, nothing the matter. Nigeria is still as bad as it is. Jonathan did a sovereign conference. What did he call his own? Nothing the nothing. And each of these conference, government spent more than 20 billion, paying all the conference delegates, putting them in big, big hotels. Nothing, nothing. So there is no need that we're deceiving ourselves, saying, oh, Igbo presidency of Igbo extraction, a new Nigeria is possible. It is a lie. Once the foundations are faulty, there is no possibility about a new Nigeria. The best that will happen is that whoever is the president, whether it is P2B or P2KK, what the person will do is, okay, you cannot eat a security vote, you cannot do this, and then they will want to impeach him, and then he will go back and say, please don't impeach me, okay, manage this and manage that, and then it will go back to square one. Didn't Obasanjo try to sanitize? Didn't they threaten to impeach him? Didn't Florence Itagiwa go sharing Ghana must go in National Assembly? So let us forget all that cycle that comes back and comes back again. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria, which is actually Niger area, the mistress of Lord Lugard, who coined the word Nigeria, it was Niger area. And when the word nigger became unfashionable because it was related to slavery and slave had been abolished, they put it together and called it Nigeria. It was simply the G and the A they removed. In colonial literature in the British Museum, it's Niger area. It's a slave post, the Niger area. That's what it is. So this conglomeration of peoples that they put together in this Niger area has outlived their usefulness to each other. They don't like each other. They have incompatibilities. They have no commonalities. They keep forcing unity on themselves. Hello? Hello? They keep forcing unity on themselves, whether it is right or wrong unity. So the truth of the matter is that our politicians will never allow de-amalgamation. So what the people should do is to do a massive protest march to the National Assembly, all ethnic nationalities, and ask for them to de-amalgamate the country. The Arewa, the Mietiala, the Hausawa, the Igbo, the Fulani, the Yoruba, the Doma, the TV, the Igalas, the Biras, the Bagis, the Biroms, the Yoruba, all of us, we should march because we are the original foundational owners of Nigeria. We should march to the National Assembly and say we don't want again. Simple. They should de-amalgamate. Hello?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you very well. Now, this is like a call to action by the Nigerian people, the indigenous nationalities
Yes,
across Nigeria, to take a march to the National Assembly
yes.
to make such
Their
demand. But
leadership, because every Nigerian indigenous nationality has a leadership. Every Nigerian indigenous nationality has a leadership, not the political leadership, the indigenous leadership. And I'm not talking of the traditional rulers. I'm talking of the Ohanese and Igbo coming together as Ohanese, the Afanifere coming together as Yorubas, the Igbira nation coming together as Igbira, because those nations recognize their indigeneity. That's why they have national organizations. That's why they are unionized. The Northern Elders Forum, the Miyetti Allah, the Hausawa group, they all have their own indigenities. Then the little minorities have the Middle Belt Forum. The TVs have their own. The ethics have their own. Every Nigerian indigenous group has an organizational forum, irrespective of their traditional rulers. Those organizational forums, that is what shows their nationhood, because the ability to organize is what shows the ability of nation. It is Nigeria's inability to organize and chronic mismanagement that has put us where we are today. So those indigenous formations should all march to the National Assembly and ask for the de-amalgamation of Nigeria. Because whether it is the president, he's a member of Afanifere. Whether it is the chief of army staff, he must have a member of the one he belongs to. Whether it is Fulani in the army, they are Fulani. Yorubas in the army, they are Yorubas. Any Nigerian has a nationality he belongs to. Let those indigenities march to the National Assembly and ask them for the de-amalgamation of Nigeria. All those senators sitting there are members of a national group. In spite of their pockets, the massive looting and corruption that has been in this country, all of them belong to a national group. And I don't think that any senator will come out and see, if it is an Igbo senator, he will come out and see the president of Ohanese and he will say, come on, get away from here. He will not do that, because the loyalty of Nigerians is first to their indigeneity before the artificial creation called Nigeria. That is why we have endemic underdevelopment. That's why we cannot cohere. Because the Nigerian, first of all, believes he's Igbo, he believes he's Yoruba, he believes he's TV, he believes he's Hausa, before he believes he's a Nigerian. So it is those foundational loyalties that should march to the National Assembly.
you've made a very valid point right there, and I think from your point of view, the call to action rests on the shoulders of the people. And to start with, their indigenous nationality, their assembly ground, their uniting front, or the umbrella bringing them together should be at the front line of making this demand. And that is what Nemo had been able to highlight so
Sorry,
far.
the network.
Yeah,
In,
yeah,
in
it's okay.
conclusion, the national indigenities should march to the National Assembly and call for de-amalgamation. All of them.
Now, no more the major challenge right here now is, do the indigenous bodies like Ohaneze Ndị Igbo, Afani Ferez, Arewa Consultative Forum, have they accepted the message of de-amalgamation of Nigeria, or the concept of de-amalgamation of Nigeria to start with? Because we know how politicized some of these bodies can be. And how will the people get them to actually take that route as the position of the people? Our network is um, taking her off and on, but when we get her right back again, she'll be able to address that. And in case you want to join the conversation in terms of making your contribution, or you want to ask questions, there might be time for us to open up our lines to take your call. Okay, but for now, let us on the interval listen to some of the guests that are already here, in case you want to make a contribution to what she has made, pending when she comes back online again. Then I think she's coming back again. I think she's coming back again. So we're talking about the amalgamation of Nigeria, the possibility of taking Nigeria back to where it rightly belonged to. All right. Now, Nemo,
Yes.
I understand your network situation, and I hope our
I'm
viewers will
looking for a
also
job
understand.
in
All right. Now, you've made mention of the role the indigenous bodies are going to play in this whole thing. Now, they are the indigenous bodies like Ohaneze Ndi Igbo, Afani Ferez, the Arewa Consultative Forum, and the rest of them should come forward to make this demand at the National Assembly. Now, the problem or the challenge we are now faced with, or the question that we are now posing, have all these bodies like Ohaneze Ndigbo and the rest of them embraced the concept of the amalgamation of Nigeria to start with? And if they've not, how do we get them to embrace that very concept? And also set it across other ethnic nationalities to embrace the same concept, because it's not going to be something of one ethnic nationality to come up to say, oh, we want the amalgamation, we want the amalgamation. So it's got to be every nationality in Nigeria saying the same thing. Is that what you're saying? And how do we get them
Yes,
to do that?
I can tell you that virtually every nationality is in agreement. But the problem they have is the same question you're asking. It is the how. And the problem they're asking the how is because of the kleptomanic, the stealing and the looting, massive corruption in government, because of the stranglehold of the political class to
Mm,
on Nigeria. That is why that there's a problem. Every single citizen, the Igbos and the Yorubas in the diaspora, have a very good rapport, and they have issued a joint declaration known as the Atlanta Declaration, a very famous declaration for the first time that they came together and said, this is what we want. We want two separate nations. We want to send ambassadors to each other. We want to enjoy our prosperity and development at our own pace. The TVs want the same thing. The Ibiras want the same thing. So when you ask, the Hausas want the same thing. So the Hausas don't like Fulani domination. They want the same thing. Fulani do not like the hostility they encounter across the nations of Nigeria. They equally want their own country. This trouble started because the Fulani want their own country. That's why we got into all this mess of banditry and Boko Haram and all that. Everybody wants some peace. There's nothing like peace. It is peace that drives development. Look at the milestone the former Yugoslav republics have achieved because of peace. Look at Gambia, little country, fine, peaceful country. They don't have oil. They are our envy. They are the jewel of ECOWAS. So what we have to do is to educate them, have massive radio programs, television programs from private TV stations, because we know that the government owned media who are corrupt will not agree to air the doctrine because does not favor them. Because corruption will stop when you bring your people. You want to tell me that if it is an Igbo president that is eating all this money, we cannot go to his village and slap their faces and tell them to stop the nonsense? You know? So what we are saying is this, the amalgamation has to be espoused at all level. Radio programs, vernacular programs, private television programs, massive enlightenment across the country. Everybody wants to be free. Everybody is trapped in Nigeria. It's not only the Igbo man that is trapped. All tribes are trapped. That's why there is no development anywhere. In the last episode, I asked a question. I said, show me that Nigerian millionaire in dollars, that there is light, road, water, hospital in his village. Show him to me. Everybody is trapped. Even the so-called millionaires cannot go home to their villages freely. They go with a platoon of policemen. Why? I have once seen Warren Buffett taking a walk in the streets of Omaha in Nebraska. I didn't see him with any policeman, and he's the world's richest man. Taking a walk around 5 p.m. in the evening, about 2 years ago. They said that's Warren Buffett. They were walking to the mall, quietly walking on his own. That's the world's richest man. What are we talking about in our country? Bill and Melinda Gates that come to Nigeria, do they come with a plethora of American soldiers? I had once seen them in Mpape in Abuja, where they came to the slums of Abuja, Mpape. Bill and Melinda Gates. Did they come with any plethora of policemen? Why can't the Nigerian politician work like Melinda Gates and Warren Buffett? Why? Because of the corruption. Because they do not serve their people. So it is the indigenities, not government, that will tell their sons and their daughters, listen, this is what we want. It is Ohaneze Ndi Igbo that we call all the southeastern senators and say, this is what we want. Go and preach it in the Senate. The Afani Ferre will call all their sons in the National Assembly. This is what we want. The Hausawa will call the Hausa senators and tell them, the Igbira and the TV, and everybody will tell their sons and daughters in the National Assembly, this is what we want. Not the governors. The governors will never do it because they are the ones eating unaccountable security vote of billions of naira. They will never do it. It is the indigenities that will tell their sons and daughters, this is what we want. If you don't do it, after your tenure, take note that you cannot come back here. You better go and live in England. You can migrate. It is the indigenities that will tell various indigenities, sit down with their sons and daughters and say, de-amalgamate. Every indigenous nation will be better off than the Nigeria we have today. Okay, tell me one indigenous nation that will not be better off today as an indigenous nation. Let's say it is a small indigenous nation that is as small as the Gambia. Tell me one that will not be better off than the insecurity and crisis we have in Nigeria today. Name one that we say, oh, if Nigeria breaks up, we are not going to be as better off as we are now. Name one. Everybody is in a mess. Why can't I send an ambassador from Enugu to Jos? Yes. Why not? Why can't I import potatoes from Jos and pay them in their local currency? Why can't I import yams from Zakibam and pay them in their local currency? Why can't I ship innocent spare parts to Kanu and pay them in their local currency? Why not?
That's a very, very crucial question that every one of us got to answer, because everything that you're saying just is pointing towards one direction. The whole ball ends at the court of the political class who are the National Assembly to take action, because they are the ones that will actually speak up and make the demand. The indigenous nations can go to their representative at the National Assembly for them to speak at the floor of the Senate. That is the house bringing Nigeria together as it is today, to make that demand. And when that demand is now being made, that is time there is light of hope for for um, this very concept to come to pass. So that's basically it. Um, For those of you who are watching, we are still on the program, The Amalgamation of Nigeria. What do the Igbos want? It is a movement, it is an ideology which its time have come, and we have them more seated with us and making a very live contribution to this very effect. If there is anyone who wants to make any contribution to what we're saying, especially our guest who are seated with us in the Zoom line, please, you can indicate and make your own submission. Then we'll go back to Nemo. We want to give an open floor to our guests who are connected to us on via the Zoom. If there is anyone, so that we can proceed, just indicate that you can unmute yourself if you want to speak, so that we can take it from there. Whoever that wants to speak first, you can unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself if you want to speak, if you want to make contribution to what have been said so far, if you want to ask question. And to our viewers who are watching on the YouTube platform, you can also be dropping your comments. We can get back on on your comment section. If there is any question you need to ask, you can also put it up there. So,
she has her hands raised.
okay, I'm trying to see. Let me bring. She should unmute herself, or should I do it from here? Hang on.
Mute her.
All right, let me.
Hello,
Wait.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go on. Go on. We can hear you, please.
Yes.
Good evening
Good
to you.
evening. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. I want to just acknowledge the wonderful presentation of Nemo, and what she's saying makes a lot of sense. To the effect that Nigeria needs to be de-amalgamated. Like she said, every indigenous people within Nigeria, they all really want out, because the percentage of people enjoying the general commonwealth of Nigeria is like 1% of the whole population. And in that 1% is also very lopsided. And because of that, we are held in a kind of stranglehold. We are not moving forward. Instead, we tend to be moving backwards, because if you check the indices, it's as if we move 2 steps forward, we move 3 steps backwards. And no nation survives that way. Look at insecurity. Look at the spate of kidnapping. Nothing actually. In fact, it appears that what has been installed is retrogressiveness. People who are supposed to really bring progress to the nation are not allowed. They are sidelined. They are frustrated out. Talk about brain drain. The best doctors are outside, the best engineers are outside, the best everything we have in the country are outside. Why? Because the system emasculates the qualified. The system emasculates the intelligent. The system emasculates those who have something to offer. And then you were asking about how do we, what we are doing now is already part of how. Sometimes people just live in ignorance because ignorance is bliss. But when you open their eyes, then they pick it up from there. So, like she enjoying themselves. Very the grassroots.
Sorry, I think your network is breaking up. I think your network is actually breaking up.
There are 2 more hands raised. Good
Yeah,
governance.
yeah. Let her conclude.
Outcasts. Perhaps they will listen.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that submission from our sister Ola. Thank you so much for that very submission. Your network couldn't allow us to hear the conclusion of your submission, but we're gonna take it up. I think Ndubisi is raising his hand.
This network is part of what we are suffering in Nigeria now. In the so-called one Nigeria.
I'm telling you honestly.
Zoom user is raising his hand.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, let me take on the Zoom user first. He is gonna introduce himself. Ndubisi, hang on. Let us take on him first before you. Um, okay, I think we can't find him anymore.
Hello.
All
I'm
right.
back. Good evening.
All right. Good evening.
BVI, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, Nemamu, and all co-participants. I am Comrade Obi STMK, who is speaking from Anambra State, Nigeria, in the city of Onitsha.
The captain himself.
Thank you, Comrade Asos. Nemamu, our honorable great lady in the United States. Madam, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be talking to you. I would like to ask you a critical question. The issue of getting our indigenous community leaders in assembly against Nigeria to de-amalgamate along the lines we have said. It is wise. But there's one fear I have. Because we recently saw in Ohanese the infiltration or manipulation by our own governors to attempt to manipulate that same body. And it is giving much room for skepticism from people like me. Being a member of MOPIN, which you know about, and I know you must be one of us supporting us, how much trust can we have, particularly speaking as Igbos, because I don't know about their Afenifere situation. I don't know about the Arewa situation. But what we've already seen in Ohanese, and I remember also when our late great leader, Deamalgamation, he came back, was still alive. He was interviewed in National Conference of Abacha about his relationship with Ohanese. And he said, I do not have much interest in dealing with political contractors. I am quoting him verbatim from, I remember that television interview. The situation has not changed though. If someone like me were to have a say in the matter, I believe that it is the diaspora, people like you, that can do more than these people here by putting pressure on somebody like the American government of today, which has already declared a serious security interest in Nigeria, to prevail by the same means that was prevailed on Yugoslavia. And you know what happened in Yugoslavia? It was force that broke the communist hold. To do this, because I don't think our people are ready to do it on their own willingly and wise like you're suggesting. I'd like to have your reaction, madam. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The American government, I can assure you, are working very hard behind the scenes. Take my word for it. Secondly, it is not easy to dismantle a monster, especially a monster with money. Yugoslavia did not have the kind of money Nigeria has all over the world. Also, the political class in Nigeria, all of them with billions and billions abroad. Some Nigerians are rich, they can bring in mercenaries from Tajikistan and Malikistan and Kyrgyzstan to come and fight their brothers and sisters. So what we need to do is to jettison the political class. We need to abandon them. The youths of the various indigenous organizations can say, we are the youths and we want you, our elders, to march to the Senate. If you do not march, we will march. The youths of Ohanese, the Ohanese Youth Council, the Igbira Youth Council, the Gala Youth Council, the Idoma Youth Council, the TV Youth Council, and the Calabar Youth Council, Calabar Youth Council, Ijo National Movement. Those are the people that will march. If their elders have been pocketed by the politicians, including the governors, then we jettison them. We have to jettison them. We don't have to use our political class. Let the governor that will fight, let him use the police to come and fight his people marching in Abuja. Let us see that governor who will use the police to fight his people. And remember that all these governors that have been killing their people, even some in the southeast, who bombed their own people, the time of reckoning is near, and they will answer. I can assure you. So it is never a situation that is unending. So all I can say is that it remains on, because remember, we are talking about de-amalgamating Nigeria into indigenous communities. So it must be representatives of those indigenities. It is not an APC or a PCM. What are the names of all these their political parties? ZKO. Those are not the people that will come. It is the indigenities who will assume nationhood. It is them that will come and demand nationhood from their sons and daughters in that contraption called National Assembly. And if their elders will not do it, the youths can do it. I believe Ohaneze Youth Council, led by the able Iwayaka, fine man, they can do it. We find their compatriots across the middle belt, across the country. They can do it. There's this Hausa boy, this something, Council of Northern Groups or something, Coalition of Northern Groups, this radical boy. They can do it. When they have a meeting of minds, they march to the National Assembly and demand the amalgamation. Have one of their sons and daughters move the motion. Are we not ashamed of ourselves? Moving motion that we don't need BVN and IREF to run elections in the 25th century, but we need BVN and IREF to collect taxes. It's even better for us to vote by POS. If POS is working everywhere in the country, then you say that the IREF and electronic voting will not work, and yet POS is working, and it is the same technology. Come on. We need to get the youths to move. Our youths can move. If the elders will not move, believe you me, our youths will move. I have every reason to believe that the youths of the Yoruba nation, the followers of the late Yinka Odumake, will move. I have every reason to believe that the followers of Najatu Mohammed, Hajia Najatu Mohammed, will move. I have every reason to believe that the followers of the gentleman of the Middle Belt, I've forgotten his name now, that he will move. They will move. I have every reason to believe so. The Ijaw national movement, I have every reason to believe that they will move. Every single indigenous nationality is tired of Nigeria. All of them.
Okay. All
Thank you,
right.
madam. Thank you. I agree with you on that one, on that maneuver. Thank you very much.
All right. No more. Now that takes us to the next phase. I believe, if there is there anyone that still want to speak, I think in the BC you were raising your hand before.
Yes, good evening, Chinedu,
Good
and
evening.
good evening to our dear Nemo, the big masquerade. Ịma nnukwu mmọnwụ pụta n'ọgbọ, onye ọbụla anọrọ nwayọ.
Ọ na-ekwe ekwe.
Anyị nwere nnukwu mmọnwụ na house, and ịfụ ka Obi, our dear brother Captain Obi, si jụọ ajụjụ, o demolish the question. Ya onye response onye ọbụla. Enwere ndị na-ajụ, there are some people in comment section. I think one person or two asking, who is this great woman? Anyway, ndị mmụọ inwe opportunity ikwu okwu ọzọ, ịkọwakwa onye bụ. It is also important for me to mention that what we are doing here, what we are doing here is setting the record straight and giving our people and our children unborn sense of direction. Because if you look at Nigeria today, it seems as if to say, everybody is sleeping, and the resounding voices we know are no longer speaking. The voices we are hearing is the voices of Wike, Ababio, and the people at the National Assembly. And of course, the governors. Few people that are protesting in Abuja. The other time, I thought you were saying it's just few opposition groups. The fact remains that this experiment called Nigeria is not working. And we have been trying to, not to make it work, but to redesign the structure that we call Nigeria, redesign it, come together to decide how this country, how this experiment, contraction can work. Like what you have in United Kingdom. United Kingdom, you have Scotland, you have England, you have Wales, you have Ireland, you know. In other countries in America, you have state of California, you have Washington, you have uh, every one of them, every state is managing its own economy. Every state is autonomous to some extent, to the extent that they have their own corporate affairs, they have their own system, they have their own police. The same thing with India, the same thing with Brazil, the same thing with Switzerland. You know, I don't think there's any part of the world where a country, of course, Nigeria is not a nation, a country with a population size above 200 million is being run and managed from one point, one president, Abuja. You know, if we don't speak or talk, our children, in time to come, they will say their parents disappointed them. Their parents didn't do anything, you know, because it's a lie. We are deceiving ourselves. Even those of us in good governance advocacy, advising people to go and vote, you know, it has done on all of us that there is no sense telling people to go and vote with this present constitution. There is no way. I won't advise anybody to go and vote again until the needful is done. And the needful is for people to come together and decide the right thing to be done. If not, let them continue putting themselves while the people will continue organizing. The key thing is organize. And I've heard some people asking the question, how? How is very simple. This is a movement. This is a message, a simple message. If we can gather together 1 million people that believe on this message, even if they are contributing 1,000 naira, will be in every radio station in Nigeria, will be in every television station in Nigeria. What we are doing is legal. We are not trying to overthrow government, and we are not trying to stop election. You guys will have election. Go and have the election. Please yourself. Don't budget 1 trillion naira. Just announce yourself leader because we don't have democracy now today in Nigeria. What we have in Nigeria today is civil rule. Let nobody deceive you. Civil rule, not democracy. It's just bunch of civilians deciding our fate. Yesterday, a few days ago, Governor of Enugu State announced 150 million naira for every political party that wants to contest the election. 150,000 to pay for advert. If you want to promote your party or your candidate, you come and pay 150 million naira. Meanwhile, the governor has budget of 900 billion naira spending anything he wants, anything. If he wants to spend 100 million naira, give his girlfriend 100 million naira, he will do it without anybody asking him question. This is the same governor through his agencies put the figure 150 million naira. Though a party has gone to court, ADC, Soludo did it in Anambra State, 50 million naira. Some party went to court. At the end of the day, he succeeded. Because some political party paid. So these so-called educated people in power, these are first-class people. These are people we cherished before. These are our mentors. But the sooner they enter into that office with Nigerian constitution, Nigerian constitution will make a governor like Jesus Christ. Nigerian constitution will make a president like a heaven. He is commander of heaven. So the common message here is let's amalgamate Nigeria, which is in line with what Emeka Anyaoku is asking for. Emeka Anyaoku met Tinubu that we should discuss, get indigenous people to discuss how they want this country to function, whether we want to remain together Tinubu say no, he's only interested in economic reform and design. So tell me, are we deceiving ourselves? So the thing is that let's continue speaking. Once this voice resonates with millions of Nigerians, I bet you the game is all over. I agree with Nemo that the use, there's some radical use, of course, with organizations like Organize Youth, like Finifere, like Arewa Youth. There are some of them well known. Those ones can be mobilized. But there are so many other youths that have been bought over. City Boy movement, this guy did this, Solution Boys, Kedofa Hajuejo, they are all youths singing. But in their heart of all hearts, they know that the system they are running is not working. Let me pause here. My just contribution is not a question. Thank you, Chinedu.
All right, thank you very much, Indubisi, for that submission.
Nepa, awkward Reverend Nosoro.
I want
Hello.
oh yeah, well problem I'm going over there.
Hello.
Yeah,
Samson
Nkiru,
is talking.
Nkiru, go on.
Good evening, everybody, wherever you are hearing my voice. My name remains Nkiruka, aka Iron Lady. Nne m
Mm.
nwanwu ekenekwa m nne m nwanwu ka igwe eziokwu ịgbọ gị ife egwu na-eri. But this de-amalgamation, my question goes like this. Do you think that they are not going to use DSS to frustrate the youth when they come out? Because we know quite all right that this very Nigeria, the system is not working any longer. And any expiring drug kills. Because according to them, the amalgamation, they said, it expired 2014, and any expire something must kill. So this time, how are we going to get those radical people from different tribes? Because what happened to Abuja last time, what's happening in Abuja on Saturday or so, showed that the system is not working. My brother Ndubisi has said it all. It's not election, but selection. Let them continue with their election, but poor masses and the whole masses will continue with the amalgamation. Again, how can diaspora something be helping this very thing? Because everything before going to radio station on is money. People need this very message. We need it. And we know quite all right, the last thing these senators and the House of Friends, the last thing they will ever do is to support the de-amalgamation. You'll see how they sign something concerning election, because anything that will favor them, they will sign it. For the first time that the president will sign something within 1 week, he signed the transfer of election, because transmission of election is not possible. They failed to do it, though they signed what they like. So how are we going to do it? Do you think that they're not going to disturb the youth? How are we going to do it so that the diaspora, our people in diaspora, will help us here? Then the message will continue pushing, moving to the mind of masses. Because the amalgamation, I prefer it than election. I read my case. I remain in Kiro Thomas.
All right,
Iron Lady.
Nkiru, you've spoken well.
Iron Lady.
Na mwenu gonive Nkiru Kaku, Iron
Yes.
Lady.
Remember that it is natural to humans to resist change. It is a natural tendency to human beings to stay in their comfort zones. So that is what the political class is going to do. They are going to remain in their comfort zones. We must continue this message whether they like it or not. People have died anyway because of banditry. People have died from kidnapping. People have been imprisoned for speaking up, for having the courage, for saying the truth. We have to continue. Otherwise, what kind of country are we bequeathing to our children? So the message, we just have to keep singing the amalgamation. It's tantamount to divorce. People don't kill each other because they have mutual agreement to divorce. It is mutual divorce. We agree to disagree because the agreement is not working. When people fight and fight and fight in a marriage, their families call them together and say, okay, please, we are tired. You people can't live together. And they have what's called amicable divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So we are asking for an amicable divorce of Nigeria. Let everybody go their separate ways. I'm not looking at your mineral resources. I'm not looking to be your president. I am not looking to write your constitution. I am just looking for you to mind your business and I mind my business. That is the way to go. That is the way to go. So
All right.
I think that is a message that we just have to continue enunciating at all levels. Print media, vernacular, social media, YouTube, radio, we just have to keep singing it at all levels so that it will sink. It just has to sink. Even among the politicians that are being favored, they know in their heart of hearts that de-amalgamation is the way to go.
All right. Any other contributions or questions so that we
And if I may add, after the amalgamation, every indigeneity will determine how they want to govern themselves. Remember that before the colonial masters came, the British, that all these indigenous nations had some form of government. When the colonial masters came, they did not meet chaos. They met indigenous kingdoms who were at various levels of development. And there is a historical study that showed, for instance, that the kingdom of Ashanti was more advanced than the emperor of Japan at the time the British had contact with the golden stool. They had never seen a golden stool, extricately golden stool. That was what the Asante was sitting on. Nobody had ever seen such a thing before. And I must tell you that the gates of the Buckingham Palace, those steel gates you still see today, were carved by two Igbo slaves from Oka, way back in the times of King Charles I in the 16th century. And British still keep till today. So we were not lacking in governance and development and organization. The indigenous communities have a fallback and they cannot write their own constitution and govern themselves. There is no indigenous community in Nigeria now that cannot govern themselves. None.
okay. All right, no more. You've made a very elaborate.
And remember, it is not crude oil that drives development. It is peace that drives development, not crude oil.
Sure. That's certain. That's certain. No more. You really drive home the point, and I believe those who are watching are understanding the message. Now, it is the focal point of this conversation tonight is to inform the people that it all starts from you. What do you demand? What is your desire? What do you demand in Nigeria today? And we have been informed about the amalgamation. And the first steps starts with the people, you, the ordinary people, organizing yourself to make this demand. But no more, before we wrap it up on tonight's episode in this conversation, can you please give us an overview? Although Ikiru asked that very question, you answered it the way you answered. At the time, at the point when the people have made that demand at the National Assembly or the indigenous platforms made that demand at the National Assembly, and the National Assembly, the politicians there, the political class refused or give deaf ears to, or being adamant to the demand of the people as they have always done, would the people continue just demanding and demanding and demanding? Or is there anything they can do to effect or get it done? Is there any way? Because when the political class refuse to heed to the demand of the people, what should be done?
The people have to keep demanding and demanding. Demanding must never stop. And then when the political class refuses, the people must turn to their sons and daughters in the armed forces. Because everybody has somebody in the army. The people, the president, the various youths, they will reach out to their brothers and sisters in the military and say, this is what we want. Simple. Because it is the military that has held this country together to the benefit of the political class. And that military is an ill-equipped and ill-paid military. Nigeria is held together by the military, by coercion. That's what is holding Nigeria together. That's why there are policemen and military barracks everywhere.
Yeah.
So when the people keep making the demand, and that is why in other countries in the world, the police is the instrument of compliance. Since I've lived in Britain and America and Germany and Brazil, I've never seen a Brazilian soldier on the street touching guns and beating civilians or coming to the market to shout because one politician said this and that. It doesn't happen in other countries. It is only in Nigeria that the armed forces that are supposed to guard territorial boundaries are used to enforce civil disobedience. So because of the cowering nature of the Nigerian military among the civic population, Nigerians are cowed. So what will happen is, if we keep demanding and the political class don't agree, we turn to our sons in the military and say, please take care of business. Yes, we turn to, because every indigenous community has a child in the army.
So it will now fall back on the having a kind of political act, not political now, but a military action to it, to get the will of
Whereby
the people to be done.
the indigenous indigenities will now appeal to their own. Remember, we are talking of indigeneity here. The indigenous nationalities will appeal to their children in the military to come to their salvation.
Okay.
To save them.
All right. Okay. All right. I think we've spent so far so good. I must say the very conversation is really, really wonderful. I don't know if there is anybody here. Francis Chiadi, thank you for joining us here. But you've not spoken. We may like to hear your voice in case you want to speak, because we'll be wrapping up any moment from now. We also have Chief Amadi Ebube Mbama. I don't know if you want to speak or make your contribution. Emmanuel, we also acknowledge you right here. If you want to speak, you can come forward. Hello, Nai. Our father is here, Amadi Ebube Mbama. Thank you so much for joining this conversation tonight. Let's have your opinion.
Daalụ nwanna biko daalụ. Ada ekene m gị. We've run into each other several times. I'm just listening, but it's a good conversation, and it's what having. Daalụ. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's your contribution for tonight's conversation. That's wonderful. Emmanuel, I don't know if you want to make a contribution very quickly before we, as we're wrapping it up for tonight's edition. And this is going to be a continuous conversation, at least every Monday. We'll be having this conversation as a people, not just having a conversation, but also mapping out action plan on the possible way to get it done rightly. Is very important. Emmanuel, if you're speaking up, Francis Chiade, if you want to speak up, you have the time. We have less than few minutes to wrap it up for tonight. And to Nemo, we appreciate you for coming on board and being part of today's conversation. Somebody just joined us right now, Tony Wincy. I don't know if you want to make your submission you're joining late, but we can accommodate your opinion before we wrap it up. If there is any other person that wants to speak, you can raise your hand so that we can oblige you to speak.
Like you rightly asked, the moderator, like you rightly asked. So after the indigenous communities have spoken to the politicians, march to the
Yeah.
National Assembly as step one, then they
Mm-hmm.
march to their sons in the military as step two, their children in the military. Then step three, the indigenous communities move to the international community. They move to the ECOWAS Court of
Good.
Justice at step
Mm-hmm.
three, and they move to the AU as step 3B, and they move to the United Nations as steps 3C. There is no way all these steps would have been taken without it having consistency, without it having some impact. So what
Impact.
has to be set up is the Conference of Indigenous Nationalities of Nigeria.
Mm.
Conference of Indigenous Nationalities of Nigeria. It has to be set up to make this statement.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that clarification. I don't know. We are. Is there any other person that want to speak?
Yes, Chinedu, I want to make my final submission.
All right. We
Um,
listen.
we've done all these things in the past. We've done all form of agitation, all form of demand. We, over the years, past years, several years, Nigerians or indigenous people in Nigeria know that Nigeria is not a nation state, and they know that the system can never be redeemed. That was why, after the Civil War 1970, from one military coup, from Mohammed, from Dinta, Obasanjo Yaradua, Buhari coup 1983, from Buhari to Babangida, from Babangida, Obasanjo, from Obasanjo, Jonathan. All these different leaders in Nigeria, they have all tried to make efforts to see that Nigeria is reformed or restructured. All the our politicians, in one way or the other, so many of them, Nnemongia, she was the ambassador of Nigeria to South Africa under Jonathan. And I know as at that time, the Jonathan administration tried by setting up constitutional conference. And in that constitutional conference, you know, Nigeria, they tried to restructure Nigeria such that to give certain level of autonomy to states, and they congest the center. But at the end of the day, did not accept the outcome of that national conference. So, in one way or the other, the political class will always tell us that they meant well for us. But I think the key message here that we'll go home with is that the power belongs to the people. And it is only when the people are organized or get organized that they will be taken serious. Even some people in many places, even here, even Kiro asked that question: how would the international community assist us here? Or even America, Captain Obi asked that question on Trump helping us here in Nigeria. Nobody, I want to say it clear, unless anybody is free to counter my position, that even Trump will not love you more than you love yourself. Liberation, we have to liberate ourselves, and we have to show the world that we are serious. So the only way we can do that is through sensitization. We have to sensitize the ordinary people, the average people on the street, to know that we have to communicate the message such that we will not go against the constitution, so as not to provoke the police or provoke the army or provoke DSS. Because once you do anything outside constitution, they will start coming against you. And once that is done, because people are afraid, people will go back to their shell. So the point is that we have to continue sensitizing our people using the right word, just like Nemo. Nemo is a diplomat, using picking our words, but passing our message to the consciousness of our people. Our message has to appeal to our people. And the moment the people trust us, it's game over. It will not even get to the level of telling our brothers and sisters in the armed forces, because they are all part of our problem. We can see what happened during the last election, during the P2B 2023 election. We all saw what happened. In all the military barracks in Nigeria, P2B won hands down, won APC hands down. What is the indication? It has proven to us that the army, the police, they want good governance and they want a new system. So once you do the right thing, once you sell your message, people will buy it. But you have to be organized and you have to be sincere. Thank you. That's the message I want, and that's my final submission. Thank you, Chinedu. And thank you, Nemo.
All
I
right,
see a hand.
Ndubisi.
Host, Tony Wisi, I see a hand up.
Yeah, that's, I think, is the last entry that came in. Yeah, go on. My brother, go on. I'm trying to unmute you. Tony Wincy, I'm trying to
Mr.
unmute
Tony
you.
Wisi, unmute yourself.
Okay, go on. It's not muted. Go on.
Okay, Mazi Chinedu, I'm grateful for the opportunity and I thank you for your service to Ndibo. General, we've all followed your work closely. We're very grateful for your service, Ndibo, sir. And Nemo, words cannot describe our gratitude to God for you and your excellence of your service and your leadership.
Thank you.
We are the predicament in which we are in my mind, requires a two-pronged attack. One of it we've been working on with Nemo's leadership and guidance for the past 3 years, and it's producing results. Soon, the results will be very clear to all, and that is in terms of having international support, international backing. In the world in which we are today, if you don't have a superpower backing you, you're just on the menu to be eaten. As simple as that. And that was the mistake Ojukwu made when he went to that war, 1967, without a superpower backing us. Nigeria and the evil contraption had a superpower, then superpower Great Britain, backing them. And so the Fulani are not smart enough, Yorubas are not smart enough, but they had the superpower backing them. So it was easy for them to deal with us, as it were. Today, our people, we need to understand geopolitics. And geopolitics in today's world means that you got to have either UK supporting you or United States supporting you or Russia supporting you or the Chinese supporting you. You got to at a very high level. And that's where you're going to get cover. And I think we have made some inroad into one of those superpowers. And I think that will become evident very soon to our people. That's number one. Number two, politics in Nigeria, as all of us know, there's no amount of letter writing or diplomacy or talk. What is left is that people should confront politicians, occupy politicians. You see, so far, Ndi Igbo have been killed, Ndi Yoruba have been killed, Ndi Hausa have been killed, Muslims have been killed, Christians have been killed. No politician has been killed. No politician's wife has been killed. No politician's child has been killed. Until we do what Oliver Cromwell did in England in the 16th century and get hold of the king and take his head off, were not serious. The same thing happened in France during the French Revolution. Similar thing happened in America during the 13 Colonies Revolution, 1776. When Britain under King George IV came after United States, the 13 colonies, and imposed taxation without representation, they said no, and they went to war. And that's how they got their freedom. Without it, they won't get their freedom. Our people need to organize at local government level, go after the politicians, occupy their homes. That is the way we're going to get their attention. Our politicians must represent our interests. If they do not, they'll be traitors. And frankly, you cannot blame them. It is called human nature. Igbo politicians who are traitors are not unique. We had an American vice president who was a traitor. We have had UK senators, UK members of parliament who have been traitors. We've had American senators, American politicians who were traitors. They were discovered because these governments America has 16 institutions that monitor their democracy, protect their democracy from treachery. We don't have that. If you don't have that, your politicians will betray you all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. Because politicians are prostitutes. They submit to the highest bidder. The pressure on them also is too much. Which woman will not want to be first lady? Which woman? Imagine they come and call your husband, take your husband from the back and put him in front, and then, offer him and tell him you have to go and kneel to Sokoto. And then, compromise your people. The madam has a chance to become first lady. And everything that goes with power. The only thing that checkmates that is a consequence for bad behavior. My brothers and sisters, so far, our politicians, not just Igbo politicians, I want to be very clear. Our politicians have had no consequence for bad behavior. Until there is a consequence for bad behavior, politicians, human nature, they will betray you, they will betray me in return for their own stomach. But the moment they wake up one day and see somebody's head, who use somebody's head to kick football in Owerri market, the other politicians will sit up. That's the way it works. That is all that is missing in Nigeria. Nigerians at local government level must go after their politicians, occupy their homes. This is politics on the street, war by other means. War is politics by other means. That is all that's left. There's no court. There's no justice. There's no legal system. They will rig election under your nose. Peter Obi's election was rigged under his nose, under our nose. There's nothing you can do. And Peter Obi will not be president unless he's willing to go on the streets, occupy National Assembly, occupy Aso Rock. That is all. That is how that's how the English folk got their country back from the evil monarchy. I lived in England for over 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. I was educated in England. The same way in France. That's how the French got their liberty. They fought for it on the streets by going after their politicians, confronting them. There will be sacrifice. There will be bloodshed. It is the nature of the beast. Question for you. Right now, is there no sacrifice? Right now, is there no bloodshed? There's bloodshed every day. What's the consequence? Nothing. But I'm telling you, the day Nigerians have the courage to go after a senator, occupy his home, take his head off, take his wife's head off, take his children's head off, occupy his home, the rest will sit up. With that, in addition to, am I calling for, what do they call it now? Anarchy? Yes, I'm calling for anarchy. Because what we have already is anarchy. The anarchy we have in Nigeria is sponsored by politicians. That is why none of them has been killed. That is why they are the ones that get elected. They are the ones that make the law. They are the ones that appoint the executive. They are the ones that supervise the executive. So why is it that Nigerians are slaughtered in their numbers and the people who slaughtered them are not arrested and they're never brought to justice? Because it is the politicians who are sponsoring them who are backing them up. The people must know that power is in their hands. And once they understand that power is in their hands, they organize themselves at local government level. Don't go to Abuja, don't go to Lagos. Local government level, control your territory. Each local government, control your territory, control your politicians, Go to his house, burn his house down. Anarchy. Everybody will get brain. Then everybody will borrow himself brain. Until then, we're never ready. We're never ready. When you have that and you have international support, the diplomacy angle, then you're going to get your country and you're going to get your liberty. You're not going to be slaves anymore. Every Nigerian right now, anyone that calls himself a Nigerian is a slave, because the name Nigeria means nigger area. Nigger, slave area. That's what it means. 1940 amalgamation, no plebiscite. 1999 constitution, no plebiscite. Where's the justice? An honorable man like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, an honorable man seeking the liberty of all, not just the Biafrans, incarcerated in Sokoto, is an anathema. It's an insult to the intelligence of every so-called intelligent person, enlightened person in Nigeria or Africa. An honorable man with no blemish, incarcerated because he's seeking freedom for all men, which the Americans declared in 1776 that all men were created equal, and thereby they make a certain inalienable right, among which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All men, not all men politicians, not all men black, all men tall, all men. An honorable man. My brothers, if that can happen to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, it can happen to you and I. And if it can happen to you and I, then we don't have a country and we don't have human rights. If we don't have human rights, what do we have? We have a jungle. The only way is to confront the politicians, occupy their homes.
Okay.
Thank
you very much, Tony Wincy, for your submission. No more any response on that before we wrap it up, because the time is fast spent.
I thank you, Chinedu Nwanne. I just say I agree.
Okay, thank you so much. That is it, my people. As we come into the end of today's transmission. In my transmission, I will go to Nigeria now. So, my people, since our politicians say that it is impossible to transmit, not to carry old manual ballot buses, that is to tell you the sensitivity of some of these people that call themselves your political leaders. They spit on our sensibility, and also spit on our intelligence as a people. The bulk of the game lies on the people, and I think what is happening with this in discussion and interactive section is to energize the consciousness of the people to know the powers they have if they truly want to be free. Even the Bible says the kingdom of God suffereth violence, and only the violence taketh it by force. That is all I can say for now. But make of it whatever you mean or whatever you think. But the bottom line is that freedom is not given, freedom is taken. That is the truth. How you take it all depends on you. But for Nigerians and all indigenous people trapped in Nigeria, the question is, are you free as a Nigerian, or are you trapped in Nigeria? And if you have an option, what will you do to free yourself from this failed experiment of British colonial contraption? A special thanks to you, Nemo, for joining us tonight. And we hope you're going to join us again next week. And to the rest of the people who joined us through Zoom, we appreciate you. And those who have been watching from the YouTube channel, we appreciate every one of you. We may not be able to take all your commentaries today, but we believe that subsequently we will take your commentaries and even your calls on the program. Remain blessed. My name is still Asuchinadu Peters, your advocate for good governance and the spiritual leader of GGM, Good Governance Ministry. I am a Biafran from the core. I don't have any apology to anyone. And don't forget, it doesn't make me not to be a Nigerian by citizenship. They are two different things. And my indigenous identity remains Biafra, and that can never change. But being a Nigerian is imposed on us. But until we are free, we are still Nigerians. And as such, we must do everything within our possible best, possibly through the legal means or any possible legitimate means to pursue our self-determination, we will explore that to the letters, and that is the position we've taken. Thank you very much for joining us on this program. And then more, thank you so much,
Thank
and
you
God
very much.
bless
See you
you.
next week. Thank you.
See you next week, man. And
Yeah.
that is where we draw the curtain for tonight. I say remain blessed and remain